What if justice wasn't just about systems, but about the soul? Welcome to the Spiritual Justice Show with me, Eric S. Lee. You've heard me say it before. For too long, we thought restorative justice alone could save us. But repairing harm without changing systems doesn't end the cycle. Social justice fights for equity, but without spirit, the work becomes a grind. Transformative justice seeks culture change, but without compassion, it struggles to hold. Spiritual justice completes the circle. It heals the heart while changing the system. It restores dignity while shifting culture. It brings spirit back into justice. Each week, I'll bring together leaders, healers, and change makers to explore a new vision of justice: restorative, transformative, and deeply spiritual. And people like you, spiritual justice warriors who choose courage, compassion, and creativity in action.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Pat, and I am so honored to do this co-host today with the most incredible Eric S. Lee. And, what I'm learning over time, Eric, is that there are things that each of us are called to do. And when we're doing them and we're moving the needle, so to speak, right? We can feel the momentum, even if nobody else in the world does. And this morning, I was looking at this in preparation for the show, and I just want to tell people what this is. This episode is called Expanding a Vision for Personal Transformation and Collective Impact. Now, why are we talking about this? Because you're looking at two people that were in the system. I don't know what else to call it. In the system. And for some reason, we made it out. And what are we doing in return? In return, we're giving back in the only way we know how. And for me, it's been a lifelong journey to do this. But now that we are here and we are looked at as mentors, as leaders, what are we doing now? Where are we in the role of, and I want to just say this, restorative justice, social justice, and how spiritual justice has always been, and to this day is, the missing link. I don't know who you watch or who you talk to or what you do. For my Christian friends out there, here's what I want to say to you. It doesn't matter what you turn on, whether it's Joel Osteen or whether you turn on Joyce Myers. It doesn't matter. They are always going to the core of spirituality and the belief that when you bring spirit into the equation, whatever that means for you, it doesn't matter if you're Baha'i faith, it doesn't matter if you're Muslim faith, it doesn't matter if you're Jewish faith, it doesn't matter if you're Hindu, it doesn't matter. When you bring spirit into the equation and you lead with it, that's where the magic happens. And so along the way, it's very interesting where we are today, because the science, the numbers, they want to give you data. They want to tell you, here, let me get to it, Eric, right now. They want to say restorative justice, RJ, has rapidly expanded across the United States, with over 45 states now enacting supportive legislation. 45 states. Where the rest of the states? What? 40, you see, this is what the work is, 45 states. Well, what's wrong with the other states? I mean, okay, so let's keep going. They have enacted supportive legislation or policies while highly localized and lacking a universal definition. That's what Eric Lee is doing. Universal definition so we can move this along. Otherwise, we're going to lose people. We've already lost generations, and all you got to do is, I know it's a TV show, people, watch Euphoria, and especially this last season, watch Euphoria, and you will find out how we have lost people floating around. So now we have over 264 statutes, 46 jurisdictions. So who are the holdouts? And I got to tell you, Eric, I I wasn't surprised about 4 of the 5. Excuse me, 3 of the 5. But I was shocked about 2 of them. So the holdouts are North Carolina, Rhode Island, South Dakota, South Carolina, and Wyoming. I'm not going to talk to those, but I was shocked about Rhode Island. Supposedly a progressive state, dot, dot, dot. And South Carolina is midpoint. But now, having said all that, and knowing to your point, you ready for this one? Get fasten your seatbelt. What state do you think is recognized as the pioneer in institutionalizing RJ? Colorado. Thank you, Eric, for doing that. Now, having said all that, that's why we're doing today's show. This is a recap of all the shows you've done, where you started from, what this journey's been like. And I get asked all the time, can we keep the juices flowing? Pat, can you keep the juices flowing? And, I get asked that question in not so fun ways, right? I mean, look at this. Caitlin Clark has got what, 2 years in the sport, and they're already telling her she should retire. What the bleep is going on, people? So, Eric, give people a backdrop for the importance of today's episode.
So, a couple things. You brought up a lot of key points and the foundation and the nature of how we got here with restorative justice. And, I got to back up a little bit and give you more credibility and kudos and flowers for creating a platform like this where we can express these things and to, actually give us the space in the divine matrix to put the seeds in the fertile ground to grow in whatever way it's supposed to grow. And so, we've been doing great work with restorative justice, and are gaining support. We just hired two new staff members to
Wow.
continue and deepen our work moving forward. And then, there's the thing about, and that's just, full circle. Let's talk about the spiritual justice show. So one of the things that happens is, and I think, the other word that we can use to express and explain the theme of the show today is serendipity.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that happens is when you get on the path and the road to change, to transformation, to reaching and walking towards higher ground and growth, sometimes what you set out to do isn't where you end up. The higher powers throw you something bigger that you could conceive of. And that is what has happened to me throughout the course of this show. And, the spiritual justice show, I love the name of the spiritual justice show. I love our website. I love our Facebook page. It's like I love just the concept of it and how we started with, okay, this is the combination of finding people who are spiritual seekers and aligning them and getting them in touch and getting them exposed to those groups and organizations that are doing that uplifting work of our younger people
Yeah.
and giving them an outlet to further express their growth and to take another step. And what I discounted was the value that those organizations had in being interviewed and being highlighted, and being able to get video clips and resources to put on their websites and put on their social media and get more eyeballs and support to them. And so, as I looked at it, it's like, wouldn't it be great if we didn't just support these organizations by giving them the highlight by giving them the exposure, but by giving them these video assets that they can use on their
Yeah.
websites? What
Yeah.
if you appeared on the show, it meant that you also got financial assistance and a grant? And so that's what we're moving to next. We have created the Spiritual Justice Show and Foundation. And now, when you get accepted to be on the show, you'll get a grant from $1,000 to $5,000 to $10,000 for appearing on the show. Now, we gotta, we're ways away from that because we got some fundraising and stuff we gotta do
No,
once
that's
we get our
fine, though.
501c3. But it's like, what other foundation, what other founder does that?
I know. This is what I'm talking about. I should get you on calls with us when we're talking to new people about joining the network, because I think I get a little tongue-tied, and then sometimes I overshare because I get so excited. But what you just shared, now I want to just tell people, your show hasn't been out there for 5 years, 2 years, 6 years. This is a new show. And what you've done with the messaging of this is by far an expansive element of what people are capable. So much so, Eric, I've been watching your show. I love your show, man. If you all have not watched this show, we're going to take this episode and put it smack on the top of our page. Why? When we're done here and Emily's done editing and whatever we're going to do to it, it has to go under a call out. And the call out is save lives. Because if we're not doing more as a network to not just get involved, but to open up a doorway, then we're not doing our mission. See, our mission isn't just inspire and do hope. The last word in it is act. Now, true confessions. Come on now, let's talk true confessions. You and we've probably been pounding doors down since I don't know how long. I don't know how long it's been for you. Probably since the day my friend took me on selling vinyl siding. Now, that's not really a job I'm good at. But
Me
we're
neither.
like it. I mean, oh my God, I did it though. I mean, I got bit by a dog. Oh my goodness. But what I'm trying to say about it, Eric, is there's a quote from John DeMartini that Linda showed me this morning. And the reason that I'm bringing it up, John DeMartini opens every one of my shows. I've saved a clip from him for now almost 20 years. And he's come out with a new program called the Priority Code. And I'm going to talk to you about this and spiritual justice at a separate meeting. But he's come out and he's telling us this is designed to help you identify your own unique hierarchy. And while you and I are doing that, there are just some days it's harder to put my socks on than the day before. You understand what I'm saying? So, in this period of time, can you share some excitement that others have said to you about the show and what you're doing? Because I watched the show, I know what people are doing, but what have they said to you personally, for example, after the show? What is the consensus? Are people all in, or do we gotta send them like flowers in the mail or something?
So there's like, listen,
That's my question. It's
I'm
like
glad, I'm glad.
five.
Okay, so first of all, so Dr. Pat, you know where I'm from, right? I'm from
Yeah.
Detroit, right? But I
Yes.
live in Colorado. But
Yeah.
you know, I'm getting up there in age. I'm 64. My brother's 72. My family's getting up there. If I go back once a year, I don't know how many visits I got. So I've been planning this for a while. This month, I came back to Detroit, and I'm going to be here for a month, and I'm just camped out. We rented a place. We're actually just outside of Detroit in Ferndale. But one of my guests about a month ago was Andrea Meyer, who runs the Center for Success in Detroit. You might have watched that show.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they
I
they
did. I
work
did.
on creating literacy for kids in Detroit, right? And I'm like talking to Andrea, and it's a conversation just like we have, and it's me, trying to extract from her this beautiful work. And it's like, Dr. Pat, every time I do these shows with these folks, and I'm plugged in too because I do the work too, but I hear the work that they're doing, and I feel the alignment on how all this work kind of fits together to uplift our youth and to create and transform this system. And as I felt the emotion that I did, when the show closed, Andrew was like, "Oh my God, thank you so much. This has been the most wonderful experiences. I am going to tell people, let me know if you want other guests on this show because this is good for everybody." That was her words. And the last guest, Dr. Joe Sanders, from Colorado Uplift. I mean,
Yep.
again, this is a real guy doing real work again in Colorado. all kinds of programs for mentorship and training and leadership development for young people. And it's like, he's wrote a book and he's doing a speaker tour. He said the same thing. It's like, this is fantastic. We appreciate it. And they didn't even care that much about getting the video assets as much as just having this conversation and being featured and putting it out there, because it's like, we look at the news, we look at social media, we look at all these things, and what is it? It's the Iran war, it's the Republicans and the Democrats hate each other, and they're jerks and they're jerks, and there's another murder, and fentanyl and all these things, and we miss the beauty. And I'm about to have tears in my eyes come again. We miss the beauty of these souls and these organizations, these beautiful souls driving these organizations, doing the work in the soil to make the world better from the youth up. Which I interviewed another lady named Sheila. Oh, I know you're going to love this. Is another great one. Sheila um, runs an organization called Youth Roots in Denver. She's from Africa. She's worked in Europe. She speaks 12 languages. She does all this stuff. She opened her show by saying this. I said, Sheila, why do you do this work?
Oh boy.
Um, and the youth go in and the youth groups actually go in and do consulting for organizations on that work with youth, because this is the data she gave me. She said, Eric, did you know that researchers have found that youth of today understand the solutions to the problems that face them 3 years before the adults do? So why are we and after the show, it was like, Sheila, what the heck am I doing? I'm an idiot. We got to have those kids on the show. I just
Yeah.
got an email from her yesterday. She was busy. She's like, okay, let's meet next week. Let's shut up the show. Let's get the kids on the show. So I'm
And
going to have those kids
talk
on.
to us so we can set up a panel on Zoom for you, right?
Yeah,
So you could do this in that way.
yeah.
Look,
We were sure, but it's like you talk.
look
You
how
said give
excited
you the
you are.
flowers. Look, I'm telling you, it's like, I'm going to get, Dr. Pat, I don't know. You told me about all the millions of views you got. I'm going to get 1 million views, because I got to get 1 million views. I got to get the eyeballs and the
Yeah.
ears on this show to get supporters and get people plugged
Yeah.
into the good that is brewing.
Yeah. And look I want to just take a snapshot in time and just tell people, first of all, you and I are doing the show as a check-in. And what do I mean by a check-in? Eric's got a couple of shows or so more under his belt, and listen to what he's doing. Listen to the people are interviewing. And it's the model that I used. And what I love about what we're talking about, we didn't stop and say, oh, what's somebody going to think? Who are we? What to ask, blah, blah. No, there's something compelling us. I was reading a quote on Facebook from my friend Elise, and she comes out and she says, I'm in love with this sentence. If you can overthink the worst, why can't you overthink the best? That's why they have the solution. That's where the kids got the solution. And, this is the show where you've come up, like every show, wasn't exactly sure where we were going to go, what we were going to do, but you had a fire in your belly to do it. And so part of this was the mission, the foundation. How do we get spiritual justice, which is your brand? You created this. How do we bring it all together? And you know what? You have done that. Can you know you have done that? And you've done that by what you just, look at how excited you got. But you're right. We need to do more. We need to do more in showing that funding this. We need to do more in creating a movement now. And you and I wrote that up, didn't we, about the spiritual justice movement? So how does the foundation fit in the mission of this? Because I hear you talking about it and I could see how it fits in, but tell the audience of how it fits in and why spiritual justice is so important to you personally, Eric.
So I can't go directly to that without talking about the lessons that I've learned in the restorative justice world and actually running a foundation. Um, I was a facilitator first. I got familiar with the work. I saw the impacts of the work, and then I got an opportunity to lead an organization, and then I got the opportunity to lead the development and the expansion of this organization so that it is growing, right?
Yeah.
And so then I could see how restorative justice became a movement just in our service area, which is Central Colorado, which is 4 counties, if not throughout the state. And you said we are already a leader, but we're actually leading the charge of expansion within this state that is leading the country, right? And part of that is, and a lot of nonprofits do not think this way. And fortunately for me, I was a business owner before in the for-profit world before I got to the nonprofit world. And so I've always understood branding and marketing. And so I had the opportunity to get some funding in my first year at Full Circle Restorative Justice to create a community outreach or community services program, which the sole goal of that program was to brand and market both Full Circle and restorative justice because nobody understood, or some did, not enough people in the community at large did not understand the wonderful work and the impact that restorative justice and restorative practices will have. And so
That's right.
that ended up being marketing, that ended up being training programs, that ended up community outreach, meetings, functions, open houses, all these things that were just outreach to make sure that people understood what it is we're doing. Okay, so let's turn out and let's look at this spiritual justice movement. It's
Yes.
almost the same thing. So I really have got a sense of what my content should be and what its mission is, and that is to offer people who are doing good work. Doesn't have to necessarily be spiritual justice. It doesn't necessarily have to be restorative justice, but it is work that is uplifting our young people and how they're oriented to life. And
Yeah.
that manifests in a few different ways we found with all the different and the unique types of guests that we've had. And so to give them the opportunity to get this exposure was a fantastic thing, and it's a fantastic benefit that they all appreciate. And, because I've always wanted to be, well, especially since I got into the nonprofit world as a leader and saw how the philanthropic side worked and how foundations work, I've said I want to be on that side too. I want to be able to give financial support to organizations that are doing good work. And just the blend of this concept and seeing how nobody's doing this. Nobody has a show set up as a foundation where they actually say, okay, you need some funds. Okay, well, let's give you some exposure, get you some branding, get you some eyeballs and other support along with the money we're going to give you. But we went through it kind of backwards, right? The cart was before the horse because we started with that exposure piece first, and then okay, let's do and give some financial support as well, where foundations normally lead with the financial support first.
Yeah. But don't you think that's what's required sometimes to turn the glass upside down?
Yeah,
To turn the
absolutely.
hourglass upside down. I had a great conversation with a friend of mine. We both watched Euphoria, the television series from the beginning. And of course, we're out of the age group that would even watch that show, right? And I asked my friend, what'd you think about the ending, the final season 3 and the ending? And we had a conversation about it, and we came from two different places. For those of you out there, spoiler alert. So the main character, Zendaya, actually is suffers an overdose of fentanyl and dies. And I had a conversation with my friend. What if they created an alternate ending? It doesn't mean that Zendaya is going to come back for season 599, but what if there was an alternate ending? And my friend said to me, why? Because the state of the world is what happens in there for young people. And I said, yes, but there are other options. Why are we showing the other options? And that's what you're doing. See, We have to show options of what success looks like in life. And I said to her, not only did I agree, but I didn't agree with the director and producer's reasoning behind that, because their reasoning behind that was, this is an honest ending to tell a real tragic story about addiction. And, okay, cool. But people know that. They know the tragic endings of justice, restorative justice, spiritual justice. So they know the tragedy. But what about knowing, overcoming that tragedy? What about overcoming that? And I think that's what you just did by flipping that hourglass. See, when you flip that out, I call it flipping the hourglass. You actually gave yourself more time to do good work, didn't you?
Yes, more time and another avenue. I mean, it's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Dr. Pat, I need a whole nother lifetime.
I know, you and me both. I pray for that, so don't worry about it. I already got my age. I already made my prayer and said it and put it on my altar. I said I'm not ready till 150, so you better keep this body working.
Yeah.
But when we come back, I want to talk about why this matters now. And I think it's because of shows like Euphoria that have very little aspects of hope in it. It's a great show. Zendaya is one of the best to hit the stage in a really long time. Very great young actor.
Mm.
However, what would an alternative ending be like for youth? When we come back, we're going to talk about why this matters now. And thanks to Eric, thanks to spiritual justice, there is an alternative ending. And when we come back, we're going to tell you why it works in the world today. Eric, before we go to break, what is the best way for people to find out more about you?
The best way right now is to go to the Spiritual Justice Show on Facebook, or reach me directly at my email, eric.lee@fullcirclerj.org.
Let's take a short break. When we come back, why? Why does it matter now? And what is the alternative ending? Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Pat. I'm the host of the Dr. Pat Show, and I am the creator of the Transformation Network, doing what we do in the world of positive radio, informed, educated, positive media. Independent radio hosts and independent networks have been the face of positive messaging over the past decade. So all of us here have decided we're going to put together an independent network that is going to enable people to bring their positive message of hope, inspiration, and conscious action to the forefront. Help us create a future of amazing, uplifting stories that can be told so we can tell our children and they can tell their children of what hope and conscious action is all about. I want to thank you all for tuning us in, turning us on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Tune in to the Flourish Frequency Show with me, Beth Larson, every third Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific Time on Transformation Talk Radio. Get ready to activate and amplify the frequencies of success, happiness, and abundance so you can live a life of more joy, more energy, more passion, more money, and more meaning. For more information, visit BethLarsonCoaching.com.
Do you want to better understand and embrace neurodiversity? I'm Dr. Lori Noto, with over 30 years of experience working with diverse and unique individuals. Through my consulting and purpose-driven life coaching, I focus on empowering individuals with disabilities. My passion is advocacy, providing the tools for neurodiverse individuals to thrive and feel included in classrooms, workplaces, and communities. Unlock the potential of possibility, power, and purpose. Connect with me today at notoholisticconsulting.com.
Are you ready to heal your mind, body, and soul? Tune into the Real Healing Institute show with Michelle Sinclair every second and fourth Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Tap into the power of spiritual guidance to heal your beliefs, elevate your well-being, and release subconscious pain. Enter the space where truth reigns and divine alignment begins. Ready to step into higher spiritual awareness? Visit therealhealinginstitute.com today and start your journey. Are you ready to heal your mind, body, and soul? Tune into the Real Healing Institute show with Michelle Sinclair every second and fourth Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Tap into the power of spiritual guidance to heal your beliefs, elevate your well-being, and release subconscious pain. Enter the space where truth reigns and divine alignment begins. Ready to step into higher spiritual awareness? Visit therealhealinginstitute.com today and start your journey. Are you ready to heal your mind, body, and soul? Tune into the Real Healing Institute.
Hey, everybody, I'm Dr. Pat, and I'm co-hosting the show with the most incredible, as we said before, the host of the show, who is Eric S. Lee. Now, for those of you out there, Eric is, of course, the host of the show, but he's also executive director of Full Circle Restorative Justice. He is, leading the charge, not just in Colorado, but he's leading the charge across the country. He does the show, he brings people on, and there's a ripple effect to our messaging and our communication, just like there is to some of the news, Eric, that you talked about earlier. But for some of this is work, this is commitment beyond you can imagine, and it really does take sweat. There's some days where it takes inspiration and perspiration to move the needle. Thank you for doing this show, Eric, because we have to keep the conversation going. And this happens to be a venue that I'm very grateful about, that we can do that. I want to go to the second part of this, which is why this matters now. Now, I gave you an example of a show, very popular show on television that a lot of young people are watching. But during the break, I also gave you my point of view about it, which a lot of people don't agree with. And what I said to you was, why couldn't they give that main character that Zendaya plays an alternate ending? But you are giving our youth an alternate ending. Tell us about why this matters and why this work is important in the world today.
So the first thing that I want to bring up is just a complete reframing of one of the guests, reframing that she did for me in a statement that she made. And it's back to Sheila, who runs, is the executive director for Youth Roots, and her giving me that statistic about youth understanding the problems, the solutions to the problems they face 3 years before the adults do. The other things that she said, and it was just a simple, Dr. Pat, it was just a simple statement. And again, it's like, we go through life, it's like sometimes we go through life and we get in these patterns and we get in these habits, and sometimes they're just thought patterns and they're thought habits, and we just keep them and we just run them, and we don't challenge, we don't think about it, and we end up just sleepwalking. And sometimes they're well intentioned, right? It's like, so there's always this thought that I've had that we're working to give these youth an opportunity to cause a better tomorrow, right? That we're like looking into the future. We're investing today in these young people to help send them on a path of a brighter tomorrow, right? And very simply stated, she said this. She said, look, we're not just creating the leaders of tomorrow. We're creating leaders today. And it was like, oh yeah, that's right. That is what we're wanting to do, right?
Yeah.
And so, it caused a shift. It's like we had already been going through this shift in our organization about, how we were going to, and we worked it in our strategic plan so that, having youth voice and advocacy it is the number one priority for full circle restorative justice over the next 3 years. That developing the youth impact groups and having youth board members and having youth liaisons with the schools is part of what we're moving into, because we're not just building for them to have a better tomorrow. We're engaging them and giving them opportunity to lead themselves today, so that we just help them build a better tomorrow, right? And so when you say, why is this important today? That's it. Because, you know, we are passing the baton right now, because the state of the world right now is a product of what we have created. And in many ways, it ain't pretty. Now, I talked about, the beautiful work that we do at Full Circle, and the beautiful work we're trying to expose through all these wonderful organizations that have been on the Spiritual Justice Show thus far. And we need to be changing the focus so that becomes the prevalent thing that people orient themselves to. And it's like, there's the spiritual principle, and this crystallized for me as well. And it's like, and it's kind of out there for some people. So stay with me, Dr. Pat. So, a lot of spiritual seekers are into, manifestation and positive thought processes, and creating the vision of the life that they want to create within themselves before that actually manifests in their material world, right? And that is where it begins. And I believe that wholeheartedly, because I've experienced it and I've come across that concept so much. And then with that, people get frustrated because, okay, I've been positive thinking, I've been having the feelings, I've been having the vision, I've been having the feeling, I've been speaking the words, but I still don't see it. It's still not happening. I don't know what's going on. And then, they end up taking 2 steps back, because that doubt actually slows the process down. And then it's like, it struck me how that is in direct alignment with how physics works. And if you look at like what is the fastest traveling entity or being, or however you want to frame it, in the world or in the universe? It's light, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, so if you look at and conceive of it, the light that's hitting our skin right now is 11 minutes old. It's like, it's 11 minutes old. So our lives work the same way. It's like we are creating this better reality now. But it's going to take that 11 minutes for us to actually sit in its experience.
Yeah.
But we have to create that, and we have to continue to broadcast it until we actually sit in it, feel it, and experience it.
And I have to tell you, that's where the spiritual nature, by including spiritual justice as in the forefront, is all about. Because there's something about the energy of spirituality, right? Let me just call it that. But when I say the energy of spirituality, it encompasses almost every spiritual practice that's out there on the planet, whatever it is. And what the energy of that does is it's a game-changing energy. And people have asked me why I say that, but I'm going to say the same thing to you, because there's this model that doesn't include it, which is used. I'm not saying it's a bad model. It gets some things done. But compassion, empathy, mercy, forgiveness, that's a part of spirituality, right? Compassion, empathy, mercy, forgiveness, and there are more. Love. When you put those 5 together, that's the dividing line. If you were to create a definition between over here, everything else is being done on restorative justice, and restorative justice, social justice, and spiritual justice over here. Because without those elements, right, how do we bridge the gap between success and more work to be done? Do you understand what I'm saying? Because what's hope? So what's the energy of hope? What is that about? So let's talk a minute from where you sit about how spirituality does bridge the gap, the divides, and still honors and shares in the more humanity centric part of this. Because it's so easy to come up with laws, to come up with judgment, to come up with sentences. But what is it going to take for us to see the bridge that divides us?
So it's almost like it's almost like, and I don't know what it takes, and I don't know, I look back at my life, and I see the arc of the path and the story, and I understand, all the things I went through, and all the things I've overcome, and some of the things I didn't overcome to get me into this space right now. And where I sit right now, Dr. Pat, it's really filled with a deeper understanding of the nature of things, and the nature of human development, and the nature of trauma, and the nature of negative environments, and how they impact the psyches of certain souls, right? And seeing what it takes to overcome that. And then there's words that come up. And spiritual is one of them. And then it's for me personal, because that is what was the driver of my life. And with the word spiritual comes a lot of words that are subsets, like empathy, faith, belief, forgiveness, love, and all those things. And when we are directed and inspired into action because of the main theme of spiritual, which leads to spiritual justice, and then those subset words of love, and forgiveness, and empathy, and belief, and encouragement, and we actually pour our actions into that, and we pour our thoughts into that, which causes us to think strategically in a different way on what our next steps are to solve some of these challenges, moving into the future. This is what drives us. It's like, Dr. Pat, I'm telling you, I am driven to near tears or tears a couple times a week, and it's not sadness. It is, oh my God, I was blessed with the ability to do this work, to say these words, to touch these people, to give these people this platform who are doing this wonderful work, and to shed that light with so many others who are looking. And so, it's really about people, and you see
Yeah.
my email,
Yeah.
my tagline, and it's quoting Dr. Howard Thurman. It's like, don't ask what the world needs. Ask
Yeah.
yourself what makes you come alive, because what the world needs is more people to come alive. And that's what we all have to find. And for me, it's aligning with organizations, though they may not say those words. They are leading our young people to lives that embody that, because they're leading these young people in different ways to find the true essence of themselves and their great spiritual nature that they were born with before any toxicity or trauma affected them and sent them on a wayward path, that sometimes they don't know how to get back on. But with the work of us and restorative justice, and the guests that I've interviewed, Dr. Sanders with Uplift, and Sheila with Uproots, and Kenny, uh, and Clark over at Family and Youth Initiatives doing mentoring work. I mean, just Andrea with Center Success. All these folks are doing, DeAndre doing restorative work on the East Coast. I mean, it's just like it materializes in a different way, and you have to really get into. And I believe we were all born with something, a zone of genius that is uniquely ours, that we were sent here to the planet coded with this, to make the world a better place that only we can do in this way. And when you can get in line with that and offer that and help another do it, and especially if you're helping a young person find that, then we are creating a different world. And that
Yeah.
was always the philosophy behind why we wanted to do the spiritual justice show in the first place, to give those individuals looking on that spiritual path the next step of action to take. And then what we found was that just as important was giving those organizations we would highlight and feature more researchers to deepen the work that they do, and just be one of the hubs in the wheel to help it all work more effectively, more efficiently, and more impactfully.
Yeah. And for those of you out there, let's just get you on the playing field for a minute. Because if you're scratching your head, you're like, what are they talking about? Let me tell you what it is. And let me tell you what organizations are bringing the message forward. First of all, this great article from Law School, University of Wisconsin-Madison. And they go through and they tell you what it is. And what they tell you, right? And here's the difference. If you want to know the line that gets divided, because restorative justice, it's an approach. So the approach is to look at what they call a wrongdoing, which is just a tough word, but it's true. It's a wrongdoing that focuses on repairing the harm done to people and relationships rather than just punishing the offender. So what is the misunderstanding number one? The misunderstanding number one is that you do the first part, but you don't punish the offender. That is not the case. Offenders are punished, but it's an approach to help. It brings victims together, offenders together, community members together to look at the impact, right? But what is the value basis for that? See, when you look at the value basis for that, and you look at, instead of asking what law has been broken, how should we punish them, it looks at repairing harm, active accountability, stakeholder involvement. But what is it missing? It's missing spiritual principles to get that done, right? It doesn't challenge us to leave your judgment at the door if you're going to enter the process, right? It doesn't talk about the spiritual values that helped all of us rise up. And you all know what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter if you're Catholic, it doesn't matter if you're Christian, it doesn't matter what religion you have. There is a foundational value piece. If you're the Baha'i religion, then you're all about virtues. So what we're saying is we're not diminishing the definition of restorative justice. What we're doing is closing a gap for how you go about it and what the factor is that we could all agree on to bring people together: mercy, love, hope, forgiveness, and more. And that's the missing piece. You see, even in the article that is done here, and it talks about the very logical linear part of restorative justice. Spirituality gives you the heart. Spiritual justice brings in the heart. That's missing sometimes from the way we approach restorative justice. That's just my 2 cents, Eric.
That's great. And I think you hit it right on in most of it. The only pushback that I'm going to give you is when you were talking about punishment and you're saying people think that it's not punishment and it is. Well, it's not really punishment. It's an alternative. And so I know what you're trying to say. And I think what you're
Well, what
trying
I'm
to
trying
say,
to say is people think restorative justice,
they think
it
it's
doesn't
easy.
include the people that have served time.
Yes, it's like people think that, and I deal with this a lot. It's like they think restorative justice, they think it's a hippy dippy thing that gets people to skip off and skirt
Exactly.
responsibility. So
That's
the
it.
key word here is more that people think it's easy, when, as a matter of fact, restorative practices and the restorative process is actually harder when you have to take accountability and look somebody in the face and see how you
Yeah.
harm them and really have a hard conversation on how you're going to repair that harm. And with it, the lesson is deeper because you're dealing directly with the problem where a lot of times in the justice system, when you're punishing, sometimes you get a reduced sentence and you're getting charged with something that's not even related to what you did. So what is the restoration, retribution, and lesson learned in doing that when you're not even dealing with and addressing the act that you're talking about in the first
I know.
place?
But I'm telling you, here's what I'm addressing. I'm addressing a conversation I had with somebody about restorative justice. And the person that I was talking to is a very knowledgeable person, said something, you know what, restorative justice is just another way to bypass the justice and legal system. I said, what are you reading? I said, what book do you have in your hand? Where are you reading that? I said, that's not it. Google it. If you Google it, it will tell you exactly what it is. And that's the point here. There's no bypassing. It's an additive factor. It's an
Yeah.
additive code. The only issue has been it didn't have the spiritual component until you created spiritual justice.
Right. Yes. Absolutely.
Missing.
Absolutely. And thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because see, this is what people think. This is what they think. And that's what we got to change. We got to change the thinking on it. We really do. But isn't that part, Eric, of how you're coming out with this? And there are many more shows. So let me ask you this question. We've talked about a lot today because we have to keep educating. So what is the message you want to leave everybody with today? And thank you so much for saying yes to this because it needed to be done. What do you want to leave us with today?
I want to leave you with, what we originated with, that if you are a spiritual seeker and you're looking for the next step on your journey, it could be another meditation retreat. It could be another 3 days of silence. It could be another technique to breathe more efficiently from your diaphragm instead of your heart. And it could be opening up your email address after watching this show and finding one of these wonderful organizations doing work connecting with, mentoring, and helping to reorient kids positively to society and to life,
Yeah.
and getting active in that when you come out of your meditation and when you come out of that state of being in alignment and more aware of your surrounding and connected with your higher self. Share that with a young person. And for us, as I went through that process, I'm speaking from experience. I do those processes, and it seems like along with that peace that I can create and that calmness and connection comes a way to extend that to another. And that is the enlightenment that brings me to tears.
Yeah.
Because I am so joyful to be blessed with the opportunity to be that.
Powerful message. One more time. First of all, if you look up the information or in statistics, what the greatest challenge is that organizations like yours has is funding. So I want to make it very clear for you, all that are listening to this show, that this is going to keep going, especially for Eric, if the organizations get funded and we can save some lives. So please let us know again, the best way people can find you, the best way they can contribute, have a conversation with you about donating, all of that, because that's the engine, that's the fuel that keeps the engine going, right? I mean, you can't cook a pizza in an oven that ain't turned on.
So again, the first way to get us is at the Spiritual Justice Show on Facebook. If you want to talk to me personally about how you can get involved, want more information, contact me at eric.lee@fullcirclerestorativejustice.org. Give us a couple weeks or months or however long it takes, because we applied for a 501c3, and you will be able to donate directly to the Spiritual Justice Show and Foundation. And then we would make sure that we get those funds to whoever you see on our show that we feature that needs those funds the most, along with the grants that we will give them. So give us some time to unfold this, but it's in the works.
Yeah. And that's really for all of us out there that have taken a step. This requires that energy of money to keep things going. And I highly encourage you that. The other thing you could do is spread the word. I have a pastor friend of mine watching the show today, And I wanted to say to you, as you watch the show today, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked you before you watched the show. Out of all the community groups, and you got your really large congregation, you need to call Eric to set something up to help and set up a community for spiritual justice. Now that you've heard the show, you have a way to listen to all the other shows, but understand, saving lives. That's the goal. And creating lives with meaning. That's the mission. Eric, thank you so much for everything today. Thank you for inviting me back. Who you got
Dr.
coming on
Pat,
next week?
Dr. Pat, it's been a joy. I think we have in 2 weeks a gentleman who runs Detroit Outdoors, which gets young people to the outside because, you know, the data's backing up. The green spaces elevates emotions, calms nerves, mitigates anxiety and all those things. And we want to give those young people another way to be and another way to connect.
I love it. Eric, thank you so much for everything you're doing. Thank you for all the hard work, because it is. And thank you so much for really putting the element of spirituality in a much needed place so that love becomes the key message for all. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning us in. Again, Eric will be back in 2 weeks. Please play it forward, pass this show on, and let's save lives together. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining me, Eric S. Lee, on the Spiritual Justice Show. You've heard me say it before. Restorative justice alone can't get us there. Repairing a wound matters, but if the system keeps cutting, the wounds return. Social justice fights for equity, but if we forget the human spirit, policy feels hollow. Transformative justice shifts culture, but without compassion, the changes just don't last. That's why spiritual justice completes the circle. It heals the heart while changing the system. It restores dignity while shifting culture. It brings spirit back into justice. And that's where you come in. Tune in each first and third Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Time on the Transformation Network as we rise up, spiritual justice warriors. This means you choosing courage, compassion, and creativity in a call to action. Until next time, walk with courage, lead with compassion, live with spirit, because justice begins here in the soul, and it continues with warriors like us. Join our community at spiritualjustice.net.